edition of the Back of a Link podcast. First and foremost, welcome back, Mark.
Thanks, Renee. Yeah, episode 10. Wow, it's gone pretty quickly, hasn't it? I'm pretty stoked to be up to double figures. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing really well. I wasn't in hospital though.
You were not in hospital. I was, unfortunately, but thankfully have been discharged after a weekend in the Auckland General. So, feeling much better. I did have a listen to last week's episode, as I do with every episode, obviously, and thought that Kyle was a fantastic guest fill-in host. So I'm pretty relieved that I've actually been allowed to come back this week. So
emphasis there on the guest fill-in host.
Yes, I went with guest first, and I was like, he wasn't really a guest. He was a fill-in host. So, I will definitely get him back on. He was awesome, and thank you so much, Kyle, for filling in for me when I was on death's door.
Yes, some great feedback we had for Kyle being on the episode. So great to have him there. Also had some feedback, Mark. Had a friend who decided to tune in for the first time after
nice.
hearing that we had a podcast down at Bay Oval. Decided of all episodes to start with, he'd start with episode 6 where we rapped to Scribe.
Jesus, that would be a sign of things to come. I feel like that was our best episode, to be honest.
6 was a highlight. 3 is still a highlight for me as well, of course. If you want to listen, we do recommend starting from the start.
Yes. Yes, you get an idea of the craziness from episode 1 that feeds into our rap in episode 6.
It does. All right, big week of cricket. We will sweep soon. We will talk about the Ashes in depth. We've got Harry back in this episode, and we will have a chat about the SuperSmash because it's coming down to the wire.
And as usual, we'll start off with the sweep. Renee, unfortunately, is out of puns for the sweep, so we're just going to get straight into it. First of all, big ODI series over in the West Indies. Ireland beating the West Indies there by 2-1. The last game, I believe, is being postponed. Honestly thought that the West Indies would win that series, so I think it's a great victory for Ireland in overseas conditions and adds to their credentials that they can mix it with some of the smaller big boys, I guess, as the West Indies are probably known.
I do agree with that, but I think Ireland are a bit underrated. They're actually quite a good team. They have taken out, I believe, England recently and another major association sort of in that top 8, so they're definitely not one to underrate. But yeah, surprising for West Indies to go down at home. They're just well out of form.
Yeah, they've got a pretty easy series coming up next against England, so they should get some confidence back from that. I reckon. Ireland winning that series 2-1, and that is a wrap up of that series. India have been playing South Africa. Renee, would you like to talk about that series?
Wow. India losing the Test series in South Africa. Again, they played one game in the last week. Very similar to the second game where it sort of was scores around the 200s, different players stepping out with 50s to 100s, different players taking different number of wickets. Eventually, South Africa winning that game. 2 things to come out of that, Mark. Firstly, I think New Zealand need to be on their toes with South Africa coming here because we have talked about how we don't know these South African names. I'm thinking we're going to know them pretty soon. There's been some great performances there at home.
Yeah, Marco Janssen, I think, is a name that sticks out for me. He was playing his first series, I think, and after his first game, he just got a lot of confidence and bowled some really, really good spells, picked up a heap of wickets. And they've got a new player, Peterson, I think, who comes in at number 4, who just scored runs for fun as well. In the context of the scores that were being made, he, I think, was top scorer in the last 2 games. So they've obviously unearthed a bit of a gem with those 2. So New Zealand will have a lot of work to do to take out that Test series.
Before that, South Africa and India will play in an ODI series. Continuing with our theme of retirements, Viret Kohli has retired from the captaincy of India. I believe the Test team... not sure about.
He'd already stepped down from the 2020 and the ODI team. So we've got steps down and then in brackets question mark because there is a rumour that he was already forced out from the 2020 and the ODI captaincy due to underperformances, and now potentially the timing just seems a little bit strange that he was left in charge of the Test captaincy and then one series later he stepped down from being a Test captain. You would imagine that would have all come at the same time had he been the one making the decision. I think cricket in India, players like Viret Kohli are gods. They probably don't want to have their reputation tarnished. So you wonder if it's the BCCI saying, hey, look, we're looking at going in a different direction. We'll give you the opportunity to step down, do it on your terms. So be interesting to see who takes over. The candidates, I guess, are Rohit Sharma is the big name in the hat, and Rahane, although he is under a lot of pressure to keep his place in the team. So given that he's struggling for runs, I'd say Rohit Sharma probably is the standout. However, he is at the twilight of his career, I would imagine. I think he's probably not a long-term prospect. So be interesting to see where India go with that.
It will be interesting. We talked about when New Zealand played India who would come into the team, and they didn't make the obvious choices. I believe they left out people like Pant and Jadeja, and so there haven't really been those consistent players in the team, much like Australia when they had Steve Smith as vice captain. There's just no real young standout who could take it, so we'll keep an eye on that one to see who comes in. Of course, assuming Viret Kohli will continue with his career and just basically keep stacking in runs.
Yeah, I'm assuming that would be his plan. So yeah, as you say, they move on to a one-day series, which I think would start around this weekend. I don't actually know the date, but I think it starts this weekend.
So we will bring you that results of that one next week. And the Big Bash is still going. 3 wins in the past week for the Adelaide Strikers. A bit of an underdog. We haven't really talked about the Adelaide Strikers. They are now pushing those wins, push them higher onto the table. The Scorchers well out in front. 1 week to go until we get into a series of playoffs. Probably won't see the Renegades there. Should be a number of Test players coming back into the Big Bash squads in the next week or two, so that will be great to see. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see if they do have a good selection of Test players coming back, because they've also obviously got the ODI series to prepare for against New Zealand, who go over next week, I believe it is. So whether they're just going to stay in their bubbles or whether they will release them for a couple of Big Bash games just to get them into that sort of T20 mode with T20 franchises before that series starts. Hobart Hurricanes have had a couple of wins over the last week. They somehow managed to eke out a win against the Sydney Thunder, which has allowed Adelaide to push up the table. Adelaide Strikers are a weird team. They don't really have too many standout players. They've got Rashid Khan, who is obviously probably their most well-known player, but they've just got a really good unit of players and always seem to fly under the radar because they don't have the big names. They don't have the Aaron Finches. They don't have, the likes of the player Chris Lynn, for example, Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis, all those sorts of players. But they've just got a good group of players who perform week in, week out. So good to see them up there on the table. And I'm excited to see Melbourne Renegades finish bottom, just to see your face when that happens.
I'm already expecting it. It is not like what we're going to talk about next. That is the review of the Ashes next.
Unfortunately, we are here for a review of probably the most one-sided Ashes series there potentially has ever been.
That's a big call.
It is a big call because there's been a few. There has been a few. We are super grateful to have Harry back with us. Hello, Harry. How are you? I imagine you're a pretty happy Australian right now.
Yep, it's been a good 5 weeks. Enjoyed every second of it.
Has it really? I don't think it has.
Before we get to the Ashes, Harry, I have a very important question. Who is your Big Bash team?
It's the Melbourne Stars. So I'm used to teams choking, which is good.
That's like the fifth or third or fourth or fifth different team we've had from everyone we're asking. All right, there's a tick for the Melbourne Stars.
That's your rival, isn't it? Because you're a Renegades fan.
Yeah.
So you two instantly hate each other. That's good. That's a positive way to start this segment off. I guess we'll just crack right into it. From an Australian perspective, obviously there was a lot of questions about how Australia will perform coming under the cloud of the Tim Payne saga and stuff. Pat Cummins came in as captain. I think firstly, rate Pat Cummins' captaincy throughout the series? Because that was the big talking point, obviously, before the series started. How do you think Pat Cummins did?
2 big ticks. I think he, we rarely lost a session. And for him to stand up and, I don't know, lead us through every single session. And then obviously delegating to Steve Smith, David Warner. Obviously, those guys are going to have an input, but I think it worked really well. I don't think there was a single moment throughout the series where you thought, oh, it's a bowler captain. They're doing too much. They're not doing enough. Very happy.
Yeah, because that was part of the concern, I guess, before the series. I think we touched on it last time. When a captain is a bowler, do they bowl themselves too much? Are they conscious of whether they're going to bowl themselves or be seen to bowl themselves too much? I think personally he got it spot on. He just stuck to what had worked previously and gave himself the right spells and the right amount of overs within those spells. But also, he put the right bowlers on at the right time. I don't know whether that's just because England was so poor or whether every time he made a bowling change, it was the right bowling change at the time.
It's tough with the 4 wins for us. It's tough. It is tough to really analyze that because we weren't under the pump at all. There wasn't really an urgent need to take wickets because the game was on the line for 4 of those tests. But even in the draw, I think on that last day, the rotation was really good. And then obviously he brought himself on at a crucial moment and took the wickets. And that was a great test. That was great to watch. It was great test cricket. And it went for 5 days, unlike a few of the other ones.
Yeah, funnily enough, that was my favourite game out of the whole 5-test series. That might not shock many people at all. But I think even from a neutral perspective, it was really compelling cricket. So even if I wasn't an England fan, say I was a Black Caps fan only, then that probably still would have been my favourite test because it was one where England did actually show a bit of fight. Renee, what are your thoughts on that? What was your favourite test out of the series?
Oh, you know what? I actually really enjoyed Adelaide. The second one, even though England still lost, I thought that was a really fun test. That was, of course, where we saw both Jai Richardson and Nessa come into the game. We did touch on last time whether or not Stark would get 5 games due to either form or injury. So what do you think about both Nessa and Richardson coming in for their games?
Did really well. I don't think either of them put a foot wrong. Richardson already, not proven, but he's had Viret out a few times in international cricket. He's done well, performed. Nessa's been running the drinks for an absurd amount of time, so over the moon. He's a fan favourite, so over the moon for him to get a test. And I don't think he put a foot wrong. Really got some runs, got a wicket. I think it just shows it. This series with having Hazelwood out, I think surprised a lot of our fans at our bowling depth and guys that have proven themselves on the domestic circuit and can come in, i.e. Scott Boland.
Scott Boland. Did you see that coming?
Scotty Boland, yeah. Unbelievable. But Victorian fans, he's been doing that at the G on a dead track for many, many years. And he's 32 now. And his accuracy over here, everyone knows how good he is. And to see him perform on the international stage was unbelievable.
That pick for me came from left field. Did not entertain the fact that he would be in there at all because they'd already had Nissa and Richardson in, so you would assume that they would have been a shoe-in for any bowler that missed out. But again, Pat Cummins' captaincy and the selection as well from George Bailey, I think is your chairman of selectors, got it spot on again. England were talking earlier on in the series about horses for courses and playing particular players for different pitches and stuff. They got it wrong. Australia got it spot on. Every time that somebody came in, you could go to Khawaja as well when Khawaja came in, back-to-back centuries, I think it was. So every player that they brought in just performed, just unbelievable.
Yes. Let's talk about Khawaja because last time, Harry, you said, why isn't Khawaja in this team? You must feeling pretty stoked.
Yeah, no, he's been great. Ever since he made his debut for Australia, he's been in the conversation, probably in the top 6 bats in the country. And for whatever reason, misses out on games. He's played 40-something games, probably should have about 65, 70 at this point. But yeah, over the moon. And then opening the batting in the next test, England played well. He doesn't open in the Shield anymore. Forget that. But twin hundreds on return is unbelievable.
That was my next question. That's where I was going to go to. Obviously, he got the back-to-back hundreds, batting 5. Is that his position in that Australian team if Travis Head does come under a bit of fire? Because obviously you're crying out for another opener to go with David Warner. Can Khawaja really fill that role?
It depends. He's getting on a little bit. But we have three subcontinental tours coming up this year, and he is a standout in the subcontinent against spin on low turning tracks. So they'll stick with him for at least the next couple of series. Maybe the next home series, someone else needs to put their hand up. But at the moment, there is nobody. So we are running the risk of having 2 players retire at the top and having to make do. But I think our international fixtures coming up are really tailored to having him back in the team. And I think getting him back in for those last 2 games is going to be really good for us.
Yeah, no, good point. I know exactly what you're talking about with regards to having lack of openers or lack of opening options, because we have 0 by the looks of it. Your prediction at the start of the series, your player to watch was Cameron Green. How do you think he went? I think personally he grew into the series as it went on and became a very good performer. That would be my take from his performances. Started off really well. He left a straight one first up. I got bowled first ball at the Gabba.
Perfect start.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I think from that, he went from strength to strength from there. How do you think he went?
Look, I mean, we know what he can do with the bat. He's done it at domestic level, and don't forget he's 20 or 21. He's very, very young. Number 6, number 5 that can bowl 140. There's so much upside, and I think seeing his bowling really get going was sort of like a sigh of relief for a lot of Australian fans. Because it's not that he hadn't bowled well in our last home series. It's just he hadn't had the results, and I think knocking over Root a few times did wonders. And the bat, he'll grow into it. He's still learning his own game. He's 2 years out of high school. He should be doing a bachelor's degree or something like that. But
doing what normal people do.
Yeah, I bet he's finished this series, and you look at his career stats. He's averaging 30 with the bat and 20 with the ball. At 21, with these playing India, going overseas, having a bowler like that, a batsman like that can bowl 140. Just for team balance is perfect, and they're going to stick with him regardless. There's too much upside.
Do you know what really impressed me the most about Cameron Green? Was, yes, we know he can sort of bowl. Yes, he's a good batsman, but for such a tall guy, he's so agile in the field. He saved so many runs at, was it Gully or backward point he was fielding at? The amount of boundaries that he saved, unbelievable. And I think that in itself creates pressure. Like, obviously, everyone talks about batsmen scoring runs, bowlers taking wickets to create pressure, but you create pressure by stopping the batsman scoring runs. If England get 4s left, right and centre through those edges, through the gully, then they relax a little bit. They're a bit more confident. But the pressure just stayed on all the time as a result of his fielding. Unbelievable.
Spot on.
I think. Where do we go for England? Jesus. I don't even know where to start.
Should we let you have a break and have one more question about Australia?
Yes, please.
Together, Mark.
Yeah.
The other big thing to come out of this series was Alex Carey with the gloves. What did you think about him, Harry?
I think he held his own. I think. I mean, look, first series, I kept well. I think the question mark was with the bat. Quite clearly underperformed. But you didn't really notice him with the gloves, and that's the keeper's job. You're not supposed to get noticed. And batting at 7, you really, in that position, you really need to make runs when the game's on the line. And I think you can give him the game was never on the line, so he never really had to make those runs.
Right.
But
I think he was pretty consistent in some of the runs that he did make, though. He was always there with a 30 or a 40, and I think he made a couple of 50s. So, again, for a first series for him as a keeper batsman, it bodes well. He's obviously just getting used to the level of Test cricket. So, yeah.
Your question remains, will he stay? Will he continue to be the keeper, or do you bring in Matthew Wade like we talked about?
Josh Inglis, I think was another one, wasn't he?
Inglis.
It's an interesting one. Inglis was all the talk.
Yeah.
All the rumours around the truck was like, oh yeah, Inglis. And then he played one of the tour games against the England Lions. Didn't do well. Didn't play the next one. He's not making runs in the Big Bash. I'm not sold on it. And I mean, look, he's already the white ball keeper. I think given that we're going overseas, and he will feature against New Zealand in at the end of the white ball summer. I think they're going to stick with him. I think the only person you'd swap out is for Tim Payne, and I don't think he'll be coming back anytime soon.
He's done. Well, there was like zero talk about Tim Payne the whole series, so I think he's done and dusted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
he left Tasmania, didn't he, for that Test series? He went on holiday somewhere, didn't he? Got out of Tasmania completely. So I think, just completely stayed out the limelight, which is exactly what he'd have needed and probably what Australia wanted as well. Oh God, England. Not an ideal preparation. I think we alluded to it before when we previewed this series. Every tour game got washed out. Australia had Sheffield Shield cricket behind them as a bit of, just a bit of cricket behind them in the longer form of the game. England's prep wasn't great. England aren't great as a Test team at the moment. You look at the openers. I mean, it set the tone, I think, for the series when Rory Burns started walking off to point to first ball before the ball had even been delivered. That just set the tone for the series. He was out of form, out of confidence. Hamid, not a Test player for me at the top. And then you go through it. You got three. Dawid Malan, who started off the series quite well, but then lost a bit of confidence, and you could tell with his foot movements, his trigger movements and stuff, it just wasn't there. He just was never really too set to be able to face what was thrown down at him. Joe Root played well, didn't go on and make 100, but he was carrying a lot during the series. Ben Stokes got better, I think, as the series went on, but he'd been out of cricket for 18 months, so you could never expect them to produce a Headingley type performance. Who do we have at 6? Pope coming in at 6, average. Butler, average. You could go through it all. Like, there's not one player that stands out and goes, you know what, he actually had a really good series, apart from Mark Wood. Mark Wood, I think, is the only player in the England team who can come out, look back at this series and go, do you know what, I actually had a decent series there.
I agree. I do think Bairstow played well when given opportunity, however, didn't have enough opportunity.
It's a shame for him. I think his injury ruled him out at the last Test and they had to go back to Pope. But he did stand up and really took the battle to Australia, which nobody else really did. A lot of question marks back home at the moment about the state of county cricket. Do they have to do a complete circuit reset, start again, go to sort of franchise counties? Is Joe Root going to stay on as England captain? Is there anybody else who would be good as an England captain? Is Chris Silverwood going to keep his job? Just the whole England team is in turmoil at the moment. And I guess most Australians are probably absolutely delighted. I know you're quite fond of England itself, Harry, so you're probably not as delighted as most Australians. But yeah, it was a difficult watch.
Let me sit there. I'm over the moon.
I was looking for a friend.
I never want to lose a series here.
I was looking for a friend.
As a fan of cricket, it is slightly depressing.
Yeah, it is. Do you know the funniest thing about this tour is that we lost 8 Test Championship points due to a slow overwrite. I think it was in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So it turns out that had we have forfeited the tour, we'd actually be in a better position points-wise on the World Test Championship table than had we not have forfeited and obviously gone through what we did. And I think that's just England up to a T. It really is. It really, really is.
So bad. Oh, very sad.
Yeah, don't know where England go from here. They've got the T20 series against the West Indies coming up at the end of the month, and then they tour the West Indies for 3 test matches in March. It will be interesting to see who makes that plane. I think Butler's test career as a keeper is probably over. I actually thought Billings did quite well in his one game, but I do think they may go with Bairstow as the longer form keeper. But yeah, we've just got no openers. So I mean, Zach Crawley came in and did a decent job, but he's hit and miss. He'll get you 10 or he'll get you 70. He needs to really knuckle down and go on and make those big scores. I think our highest opening partnership was 75 during the whole series, which is just not good enough. When you're constantly 12 for 2, 12 for 3, just not good enough. So yeah, they need to do a complete reset, and yeah, I don't know how they go about that. That's why some people get paid the big bucks at the England and Wales Cricket Board.
That is true. Now, how long is Jimmy Anderson going to be sticking around down at that bottom of the order?
Well, after his performance in Sydney, you could probably get him promoted up. Mind you, to be fair, he was batting against Steve Smith, who I think Jimmy Anderson came out after that game and said that Steve Smith won't mind him saying that he was chucking pies, basically. So it was probably the easiest bowler he could have faced. But I mean, this is the other thing. Apart from Mark Wood, our tail didn't wag at all. You look at Australia, when we had them in positions where we could have put the foot on the throat. Mitchell Starc came out and got 30 or 40 odd. Nathan Lyon was smacking sixes over deep square leg. Pat Cummins come back. Just everybody had a performance, whereas we would get to maybe, 200 for 6 and be 210 all out because our tail just can't handle. And it's been like that for ages. Our tail can't bat. As soon as you go short to them, they get on the back foot and then they're stuck on the back foot. You just bowl full and straight and you'll bowl them, you'll get them out. Easy. I'll ask each of you a question to wrap it up because I need to get over this pretty quickly. I'll start with Renee first. Highlight of the series for you.
Oh, I'm going to pick the obvious one with Scott Boland's figures at the MCG. That was just incredible to watch. I also want to give a shout out to Jai Richardson at Adelaide because I'd had about, an espresso martini and some kind of margarita and some champagne, and I was just watching him bowl at about 11 o'clock, and it was quite enjoyable.
Sounds like it was. What a way to watch cricket. Harry, what was your series highlight? Apart from the result?
Scott Boland. Would be a standout highlight, but there is a reason that it isn't for me. So I'm going to go with Khawaja twin hundreds on return. Yeah, that was unbelievable. And only because I was supposed to be doing the tea time entertainment on the MCG on day 3, and so we rock up, and I'm like, oh gee, 2 down, game's sort of on the line. Can they? Surely they can make 2 sessions. Aaron 25 later, test over, don't even get the chance. So while I love Scott Boland, it was actually really depressing.
I reckon. Denied you your chance of stardom.
Oh no!
What were you meant to be doing?
Long hit competition out on the G at tea time. I rated my chances as well.
I've seen you hit a big ball.
Practicing launching, and
I've seen you range hit. You can hit a big ball.
Scott robbed me of that opportunity. So if I ever see him, I will let him know.
Yeah.
Good.
He could probably get you access to the G just to do that on a Saturday afternoon at some point. So make sure he makes up for it. I've got 2 particular highlights. The first highlight was the end of it. When Robinson got bowled and it was finished and it was over. That was my highlight.
What a finish as well.
Oh, yeah.
Stepping away.
Backing away to square leg. Yeah, unbelievable. Again, I think 2 balls encapsulated the series. Rory Burns' first ball and Ollie Robinson's last ball encapsulated the whole series.
From start to finish.
Book-ended.
It's poetic. It's poetic.
100%. But I think my favourite one was when Marnus Labuschagne fell over himself and got bowled middle stump. Just because he really irritates me with his no run. So that's exactly what I shouted at the TV when the zing bales went flying. But yeah, not a great series.
I've never seen anything like that before.
That was hilarious. I don't know.
Never seen that.
Mike Hussey was talking about him slipping and stuff, but I can't see that he slipped. I think he just went way too far over. No, just went way too far over, overbalanced, and couldn't get back in time to get back into a position to play what was a bang average delivery. So yeah, bizarre, but it was hilarious. Not sure where England go from here. Australia basically just need to keep doing what they're doing. Congratulations to Australia for quite a convincing victory. I think that have proved a lot of doubters wrong. And last question, I guess, for Harry: are Australia back?
Good question. It is. I think it's hard to judge a series like this. In Australia, we always always turn up in Australia. I think a real gauge of where we're at will be the series against India.
Yes.
I think if we can put up a fight overseas in India, I think that'll be a real gauge of where we're at. Not expecting to win it, but I think when we're really under the pump, I think is when we're going to see really like if we are a team to challenge the next, this Test championship.
Yeah, it'll be good to actually see you play against a team who can put you under the pump, because I think India in their own conditions will do. So yeah, there'll be a few questions that Australia have got to answer. India will be under new leadership as well, which we have covered previously during this episode in the podcast, as we've talked about. So be interested to see how both teams do that. And you've got Pakistan next, I think it is, in Pakistan. Is that right?
Correct.
That'll be a great series as well. Pakistan back in Pakistan, playing Test cricket against the top nation for the first time in about 12, 13 years, I think.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah,
so
long
that'll
time.
be really good to see.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, Harry, you've got to shoot off to training. I'm going to shoot off and cry a little bit more, like I have done for the last 6 weeks. And then I'm going to get over it, and we will carry on with a review of the SuperSmash. Harry, thank you so much for your time. Good to see you, as always. And we'll catch up for the next Ashes, I guess, which will be in England. So hopefully we'll stand a chance by then.
I'm looking forward to it. A bit of competition. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll provide competition, but we'll do our best.
Not with that attitude, Mark.
All right, take it easy, man.
Adios.
Oh my goodness, Mark, if there is ever an advocate for a SuperSmash game, it was Saturday at the Outer Oval. I was texting you updates as we were going. The Aces took on the Volts. Aces, they needed to win the game to keep their dreams of getting into the finals alive. The Volts batted first, restricted to 130, which isn't too bad at the Outer Oval. It can be a very niggly pitch, even though it's a small ground. It can be a bit hard to score runs there. The Aces came out to bat and were reduced to 26 for 6.
Yeah, they were 16 for 5 at one stage, weren't they?
Worker, Chapman, Phillips, back in the shed, most of them on ducks. The girl next to me was like, this is disgusting. We hadn't even made it halfway through our picnic. And we're like, we're going to pick up soon. Oh, so devastated. There's a beautiful salmon there. But Sean Solia, well, he must have had his Weet-Bix that morning. He anchored the innings with some help from Will Somerville. Lockie Ferguson came out and hit 2 sixes. Lister hit a 6. The Aces won the game with 1 ball to spare. Oh, my heart, my heart.
Yeah, I turned it off when...
this is why you never turn off cricket.
I know, but I was obviously close to death. And I think I was watching the back end of the Volts innings, and then I had to go and get some antibiotic drip things sorted, so I had to turn the phone off while that got sorted, turned it back on, and it was 16 for 5. And I was just like, do you know what? I'm going to have a nap, because what else do you do in hospital? Because there's not really a lot to do. And then I was just checking Twitter, I think it was, and saw Steph, who I believe you were at the game with, and she posted that it was still going. So I was like, I need to get me in on this, need to get me a bit of this action, and came on just as they lost their 9th wicket, I think. And Lister came to the crease and smoked a 4 over deep fine leg, I think it was.
Correct, yeah. To
win the game. So unbelievable. Beautiful. Yeah, one of those things, you'd think that the game would be over at 16 for 5, 26 for 6. But that's why we love cricket, because it's never over until the result has actually been reached.
That is 100% true. In other Super Smash news, the Braves cementing their place at the top with a win over the Firebirds. It was bloody lovely to see cricket back at the Coburn Oval up in Whangarei. But, Mark, I saw something on the TV. I'm going to make a statement that you're not going to believe.
I wonder what this is. I think I know what this is.
Michael Rippon, who I got to see on the field on Saturday, bloody lovely to see him.
Fangirling.
Michael Rippon has competition for the best hair in the Super Smash.
I don't believe it.
Tim Robinson from the Wellington Firebirds has the most beautiful locks. They are thick and flowy and like shoulder length, but not in that really scraggy Colin de Gronholm mullet way.
Yeah, nice.
He took his helmet off, and it was like he was in a Pantene ad. Took it off and shook out locks. Oh, even Mark Richardson was going a bit crazy on the commentary. So,
Mark Richardson already is a bit crazy, so for him to go a little bit more crazy than usual is quite a sentiment to Tim Robinson's barber. So good on him for... Is he at top spot now then for best hairdo in the Super Smash?
I can't say top spot, but very, very close. The competition, it might be close on the points table, but it is closer on the hair table. Right, let's take a look at that points table though in all seriousness. Alright, the Auckland, they need to win all their games this week to be in with a chance. Key game will be this Thursday with against the Firebirds. Both those teams are on equal points, so whoever wins from that will likely go into the elimination final. We are expecting the Northern Brave men to come out at the top of the table unless they collapse. Over on the women's table, Blaze and Sparks well ahead. Their race is who auto-qualifies for the finals and who has to play in the elimination. The Spark must win their game to tie with the Blaze. The Blaze have 2 games to pull ahead. In terms of third place, who will go into the elimination final with second place, Hearts just ahead of the Magicians with equal games to go, so that will come down to the wire.
Yeah.
If you are in Tamaki Makoto, come down to Eden Park this Saturday in Eden Park. Auckland versus Central. Central probably out of the running for both finals, both men and women, but it will be fun, and the game is inside Eden Park.
Yep, and tickets are relatively well priced. So yeah, it's the big Eden Park, not even the Aotearoa. It's the big big Eden Park. So
and check online if you are an essential worker. You may be able to get in for free. We want to thank our essential workers throughout this difficult COVID times. Great atmosphere. I'm rounding up all the lads. Get in there.
Definitely come down and join us, and if you do join us, let us know on Twitter at @backofaLength_ or on Instagram at @backofaLength, and we'd be delighted to share a beer with you.
Well, Mark, I know you want to forget all about this Ashes series, but I'm going to ask you
what Ashes series
about it. It's done. Is it done? Right, no, Mark, will you think about it one more time? Because this week I have compiled a first 11 of the week, best moments in an Ashes series. Spoiler, there's nothing from England from this series.
Yeah, surprisingly. I'm not sure why. I think you're being a little bit harsh there.
No, I'm sure not. All right, let's have a look. In at 1 we have Sir Donald Bradman, most runs for anybody that's ever played in the Ashes, the only player over 5,000 runs, so naturally opens the batting. In at 2, pretty boy Alistair Cook had an incredible series in 2010-2011. In at 3 is Ricky Ponting. In at 4, Mark Waugh. In at 5, you'll be glad to hear this, Ben Stokes.
Legend. He should be in every 11.
How would he be in the first 11 of... I was going to say things you find in the house, but you could probably find a Stoke in the house.
Exactly. There we go. See? He's a horse for course, all purposes.
Oh, God. Right, and at 6, Ian Botham for his 1981 series. Adam Gilchrist comes in at 7, 57 ball 100 in 2006. That's incredible for a test.
Yep.
And at 8, Shane Warne, 9, Glenn McGrath, and 10 and 11 are the 2 guys who basically saved a game. It is Jimmy Anderson and Monty Panesar.
2009 at Cardiff. Wonderful rearguard action there. I think that team would give most teams, if not every team, a run for its money. So, yeah, pretty glad that after this, it's 2 more years until we can talk about the Ashes again on this podcast. So it's done, it's dusted, we're getting over it. We don't even know what the Ashes are anymore. I've moved on, don't even know what happened. Who are Australia anyway? We are done. That is our 11 of the week.
Yes. We won't completely forget about Australia though, because New Zealand will play them in a white ball series very soon. We will bring that over the next few weeks. We'll also wrap up the SuperSmash because there's only one round and then a final round to go. Oh, so exciting. Find us on Instagram at Back of a Link or on Twitter at Back of a Link with that little underscore. We are posting lots of highlight reels from the games at the moment, which the fans seem to be loving.
They do, yeah. We'll keep getting little pop-ups on my phone every now and then. They just come in spates. So it's good to see the interactions that are coming through. And yeah, keep it up. And as always, any feedback, anything that you'd like us to talk about on the show, anything that we may have missed, any funnies, anything like that, let us know. And we'd be happy to try and get it included over the next few episodes. But for now, that is a wrap. Not like the one we did for Scribe, but that is episode 10 done and dusted. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And again, yeah, if you're at Eden Park on Saturday or if you're at the Outer Eden Oval on Thursday afternoon, let us know. Feel free to pop along and say hello, and we'd be delighted to see you.